Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is David Novak. I thought I would switch up my headgear for today. I have spent most of my life being hugely ignorant, and I still haven't got out of it yet. That did not, regardless, prevent me from writing a large number of books. Whenever did being ignorant prevent anything? We see it right now at the head of our government, as a matter of fact. Well, yesterday or today, this morning, one of my viewers kindly suggested to me that I write a book about nuclear. I am sure that the suggestion was tongue-in-cheek. And herewith, I'm going to go into something that I have touched on before, so this may be a rerun for some of you. I mentioned that as a young man, when I first went to Japan, first went to Hiroshima, I met a woman who was, I want to say, featured in John Hersey's book, Hiroshima. She was actually a baby at the time, and she was misgendered by Hersey. He called her a boy baby, and she was a girl baby. But be that as it may, the fact of having been there so young, actually spent the U.S. holiday of Thanksgiving in Hiroshima. I did not want to be traveling on the road because it felt very somber to me. Of course, nowadays, I would probably not feel that sense of somberness or that sense of reverence towards a holiday, but be that as it may. I was there before I had graduated from college. I found a school that would had a program where in 1 year's time I could just put all these courses together and come out of it with a degree, a humanities degree, which has mostly done me no good ever. But I did so, and I had already started writing poems, and I had this big project I had to do where the teacher had pretty much no holds barred. You could do anything. So I thought, well, I'll do a book of poetry. It was slim pickings. Some of it, if that manuscript still exists somewhere, there's some bizarre stuff in it. But I've talked about this poem in another video. I will read from my first book, Embodiment and Release, the only poem that I know of that touched upon nuclear. Now, there are some lines floating around in my head from way back, and I doubt they exist, but they started, why insist scientists it's merely a thermonuclearly explosion? The sun, that was the first part, and then there was a second part, which I will not trouble to recall, back in the early days when I was most under the influence of E.E. Cummings. So they are hopefully lost to posterity. Besides this, trying to talk about how scientists will define something such as the sun based upon their latest advances in technological understanding, whereas the sun, of course, pre-exists that. And I'm sure further definitions of the sun will become possible. But here is the poem. I used it for the class. Beautiful echo, dejected, alone in a cave, wasted away till her voice and nothing rest of her remained, after Narcissus rejected her love. Meanwhile, in a hospital bed, a girl, one of the many temporary survivors of the bomb blast at Hiroshima, was told by her mother that, according to legend, if she folded 1,000 cranes of paper, she would not die, and had completed 700 or 800 some before she did die. There have been many echoes and reverberations of the past that resound now into our present, while I, Narcissus, remain vitalic and handsome and virile as ever. And so when he came to that poem, my instructor, as I say, he was acting more in the capacity of an advisor. He got really upset. The one line consists only of 2 words, temporary survivors. He pointed to, temporary survivors, how can that be? Well, of course, I didn't have any defense. And he continued, temporary survivors, that means that I am responsible for those deaths in Hiroshima. Ah! He got really upset. He wanted me to change it. Of course, I didn't change it. I think I wound up getting a B in the project, but that was just sort of a gratuitous B. I guess they wanted to get me out of there. They were not trying to impede my course. But that kind of delineates the level at which I, as a poet, have written, that level inside that person. That's what poems intend to address. Now, each one of us has our own limitations, and I am sure that somebody can compile a good anthology of poems dealing with the nuclear question, let us say, much more adequately and serviceably than I possibly might. It is so far out of my ken, out of my purview. This one little thing is the only time the book is Embodiment and Release, and note the absence of the X. There should really not be an X in the name, but I cannot change all of the other things. We all operate under limitations. I am largely retired now from writing and do not think I will delve any more into the topic. Come to think of it, it just popped into my head that wonderful play by Michael Frayn, Copenhagen, which sort of touches on the issue, which I thought I had a copy of, but I apparently don't. But now where did I put that other thing? I was going to show you, oh yeah, this, I mentioned in the other video a poem by Victor Hara that was in here. And there was some reason that I brought this out. Oh yeah, this is the only book of my vast body of work completed before just a couple of years ago, in which some people prefer to say oeuvre, in which I touched upon the topic of Native Americans in this continent. I am reading Parkman right now, Francis Parkman's History. Last year I read Ned Blackhawk and some other things, a title that Steve Donahue recommended, trying to finally educate myself on some of this stuff. But as I say, I have spent a life largely veiled in ignorance, and I've tried to remove a veil here and there, but it's slow work and doesn't happen overnight, and so I still feel myself surrounded by the obscurity. That may well be the permanent situation of the poet. But I did, as sort of a last-ditch effort in this more recent book, Sheetrock Tabernacle, tried to come back to it a little bit. So this was in 2021. and I'm going to guess my last book would have been 2023, something like that. We all have our limitations, and none of us can cover everything. So my apologies. I really appreciate the suggestion to do the book on nuclear. I really encourage you to do such if you think that's an achievable goal. And hopefully others will come behind me who can deal with this. I really feel that now what we need is action and not words, and how that action will be guided, or how manipulated or manipulated the least badly is a real question that I could not propose to answer. So it's just a thought. Thank you for stopping by my channel.